Hey guys, Scott here. Don't know how well you guys can see this, but I'm using just a action camera. So anyway, updated on my Ancestry genetic DNA on Ancestory.com. As they get more people doing their DNA, it always keeps getting updated. So overall, my DNA is 98% Europe. Then when you break it down, this is the whole area here. When you break it down, it is estimated 44% Great Britain, which is located in England, Scotland, and Wales. 17% excuse me, Europe West, which is Belgium, France, Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and Liechtenstein, I don't know. I definitely didn't pronounce that right. 11% Italy, Greece, and then 9% Spain, Portugal, and 9% Europe East, which has a whole bunch of others. 7% Ireland, and then the others are just 2 low percent. But the highest percent is the 44 Great Britain. So this just shows right in here. And the neat thing is, it shows where my DNA actually settled from. This is thousands of years ago. So my DNA dates back thousands of years ago to these areas. Now, let's go hundreds of years ago. And settlers came from over here, out here, to Pennsylvania. The funny thing is, most of my DNA from the last 100 years are in Pennsylvania. The funny thing is, that is exactly where I live. So, it's pretty interesting. When we go in further, it gives some details on where most of my DNA is in Pennsylvania. And it shows right here. Now, I'm not going to exactly say where I live, but I can tell you that it is somewhere within here. And it's pretty awesome how accurate this is. So, it gives overview over here on different dates. So, let's start off. English Quakers founded Pennsylvania as religious freedom and tolerance. Thousands of German and Swiss Mennonites, Anabaptists, Evangelicals, and Scottish followed, drawn by the promise of religious freedom and acres of rich, available farmland. Their industry and success raised Pennsylvania among the American colonies. Their soldiers helped ensure a Union victory in the Civil War, and they went on to leave their stamp on settling and culture of American Midwest. So we can now see even more details. So this is 1700 to 1725. So it shows in this time age era where they came from. I don't know if the camera's picking up everything. I didn't check everything else here, so still just updated. Although America was known for being settled by people seeking religious freedom, Pennsylvania soon emerged as one of the few states that actually made good on that promise. This was largely due to the English Quakers who settled in the state in the early 18th century. They knew religious persecution themselves and made it a point to establish laws that allowed religious diversity. German and Swiss Mennonites, Lutherans, Baptists, and Presbyterians all followed in quick succession, drawn both to Pennsylvania's acres of available land and the chance to practice their religion without fear of being arrested or killed. So that is, in the 1700s, the main reason why they left my DNA, my ancestors left United Kingdom, Germany, France, and that whole area. I mean, guys, I can keep going on, and I'm gonna, because this is pretty awesome. I can click all this stuff and find out just all this detail. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like it shows the founding of Pennsylvania colony. I mean, this is just crazy. All this details. Unbelievable. If you guys haven't done Ancestry, you guys gotta do it. We're just gonna skip over that and skip connection and that for right now. 1725 to 1750, fleeing the ravages of war. In the years leading up to the American Revolutionary War, thousands of Swiss and German immigrants arrived in Pennsylvania and Maryland. Many came to escape the lingering devastation from decades of war that saw armies razing villages and destroying crops. Immigrants tended to come as families, and many arrived servants owing between 2,000 and 7,000 years of labor to pay off their passage. Although Switzerland remains relatively untouched by war, its federal system made life miserable for majority of the population, and monarchy, tight-fisted policies controlling religion compelled many Swiss to seek abroad. Excuse me. It's really small. Okay, 1750 and 1775, kidnappings and war. Immigration from Europe slowed to a trickle as American colonies became engulfed in the French and Indian War. Pennsylvania was heavily impacted by the conflict, and many died fighting to preserve British control. Women and children were kidnapped by Native Americans. Some were never seen again. Others were held captives for years before being rescued. Pioneers used new roads to move troops and supplies for war to further west. Wherever they went, the Pennsylvania Dutch left their mark. From the German they spoke to the iconic two-story barns they built. And then I can click this, which gives history. I mean, this is amazing. I'm hoping I can print this stuff out. 1775 and 1850. Pennsylvania farmers had turned the colony into America's breadbasket by the time the Revolutionary War began. Thousands of Pennsylvanians fought in the Revolution. Others included members of peace churches like the Mennonites, which is my background. We were Mennonites. Raised the crops that fed the army. Oh, that's interesting. With the opening of Ohio after the war, the state saw many of its residents moving west again. The opening of Erie Canal in 1825 linked to the east to the west, beckoning the land hungry and restless descendants of Pennsylvania's early settlers. Ohio population increased from 45,000 in 1800 to over 2 million in 1850, including many German speakers from Pennsylvania. Then I can click here more. Let's go up to 1850s to 1900s. War and growth. Okay, some more Pennsylvania early settlers who praised the freedom they found in America. Only New York provided the Union with more soldiers than Pennsylvania during the Civil War. Wow, that's crazy. So New York was the #1 for providing soldiers, and Pennsylvania was second. And the state was a major source of food, coal, iron, and other supplies. After the war, some descendants of Pennsylvania's early settlers kept moving west along the German belt, settling in neighboring Ohio, which became a gateway to the west as central location for many railroad lines. The state connected Easterners to cities like Cincinnati, Cleveland, St. Louis, and Chicago. That is crazy. 1900 and 1925. So these are all just settlers, like where they're at as of the state, like 1900, 1925, and where they moved. At the turn of the century, Pennsylvania was a world-renowned manufacturing center. Many of the descendants of the state's early German settlers now lived in or around cities and industrial areas and worked in factories, shops, and mills. War years were boom times for Pennsylvania and Ohio, as factories met demand for everything from woolen blankets to arrangements, and farmers enjoyed high prices for wheat, but the war also brought anti-German sentiment and persecution, which led to increase and loss of pride in. Wow. 1925 and 1950, the Depression hit single industry towns like Altoona, railroads, and Reading, textiles, steel towns like Pittsburgh, and hundreds of small coal mining towns especially hard. In Philadelphia, unemployment, foreclosures, and evictions skyrocketed. The state's government initially blocked some New Deal programs, and by 1932, Pennsylvania had more families looking for relief than any other state in the country. For years, the state was home to strikes and bitter labor disputes as well. World War II got the state's economic engine started again, and more than 1 million Pennsylvania women joined the workforce during the war. And that's all I can see. I don't know, can I zoom in here? So let's see what connection is. Alrighty. You and 793 of your DNA matches, along with 46,000 other DNA members, are all genetically linked to form the... Okay, wow. So, no connection, possible, likely, very likely. Your DNA indicates that you have a strong connection to this community. Our confidence that you belong is 95%. It's likely that you share recent ancestors with other people in the community. These are family names appear often in this genetic community. Wow. Huh. Very interesting. So let's see if I can go back. A lot of cool information, guys. It's just awesome to know like where you've came from. Like I said, this dates back thousands of years and then hundreds of years all in this area. Which the funny thing is, it's right in here. I mean, they didn't really travel that far. Which makes sense. I don't think this page is loading.